he'd rather torture them into greatness. I
on
need
the
a
ball.
fire under your ass, man. Anything and everything you build after that is just fundamentally garbage. Those are very inefficient organizations. Everybody's there is playing like status game. They don't see the potential in themselves. And that's been very, very tricky for me. If you bring a bad apples brings bad apples, and now you ruin the culture.
So you run a company just from your house, and let's dive into what that means to run a completely, what's the word I'm looking for? Virtual company. Remote work. Everything's remote.
Yes.
And how do you deliver on projects with a remote team?
As long as you have a process, everything's going to work, right? So to me, the secret is first the people you have. So you working from home is a very interesting, it takes a certain type of person and certain type of responsibility for you to be able to, be there alone, unmonitored, and yet know how to guide yourself, wake up, get out of bed and get to work, do the things you're supposed to do where there's nobody watching you. And so I think it's one, having the right people, culture, accountability. You're going to hold people accountable, right? It's, I wouldn't say there's been incidents where, somebody might abuse that work from home, but as soon as you find out, you either talk to them. That's how it goes.
Oh, that's just life. That's how it is. And were you working remote before it was like cool? How long has this been going on for?
I think I've always worked remote since the early 2000s. And this is again going back to the time I was a university student. So I was, I was back home, and online internet was a new thing. I was a software developer, and I discovered freelancing sites, right? The first one I think called like Hire a Freelancer. And so my first jobs were always remote. I was working for US clients, Canadian clients, while I was, offshore in a third world country. And I think I quickly figured out the ways to build trust, to build confidence, and to just deliver more and more work. That was me as, person number one working remote. And, in fact, the reason I came to Canada was because of a remote job. So and it's a funny story. So there was a gentleman who I met on a freelancing site who wanted me to build him. He's an Indian gentleman, and out of all the people in India, he chose to work with me. And then that kind of relationship, evolved over time. And then here's the second irony. The second irony that Indian gentleman introduced me to a Jewish gentleman who was hiring in Canada, was starting a company, and he was in Israel for I think a couple of weeks. I met him, and then we hit it off. So he's the guy who sponsored me, who brought me here. A Jewish guy, which is also very interesting given kind of the background. And from there, when I came to Canada, I was actually working on site for a client, but that client had like 3 or 2 days work from home. Before there was a work from home, we're talking 2010. This is pre-COVID, pretty much everything. And, as you work from home, as you work online, you meet other cool people who worked with you online. And then that's how we built a network. And today we're about 55 people.
Which is a lot.
And a lot to manage remotely.
Yeah. So what's it like to manage 55 people remotely?
Look, we're growing. And I'll be frank, we're experiencing a lot of growing pains. The biggest challenge is payroll. Why? Because stupid banks will not let you, you cannot just wire like a lot of money offshore quickly. So you can wire, if I want to use my online banking to wire, it's like 10K CAD at a time. Okay, so how do you pay 55 people 10K CAD at a time? So that brings unique challenges as well of its own. How do you track hours? How to ensure that the hours are actually what the work got worked? And so these are kind of the challenges. But it's also cool because fun fact, I think we have people in. Last time I counted, there was 7 or 8 time zones that we had people in.
And there's always someone working on a project.
There's always someone working, like 20, and that's also cool because there's only a few organizations that can get work done 24 hours a day.
Yeah, it's like that classic, the sun never sets. The sun never sets on BitLab. It's always operating.
Yeah, it's always operating. But that's also bad because whenever I'm online, there's somebody online. And so there's, I get questions, I get things in Slack. But it's love the team.
So then with the way that BitLab work, is there, if someone were to want to develop a company that was similar to yours, what would they need to understand?
Go back to sales and marketing. Where are you going to get your clients from? That's the first thing. And the thing is, I think it's probably easier for me because I've done it before. I think, dealing with 20 people, 30 people, 40 people, 50 people, there's different, you have to become a different organization. You cannot be a 50 or 100 people organization structured in the same way you'll deal with 10 to 50, right? A good thing is there's a number called Dunbar number. It's 100. And essentially at at that number, you can no longer operate on trust. You cannot no longer operate verbally. You need rules. You need regulations. You need, predictability.
And would you say like how much of the company now is trust versus rules?
We're probably like 80% trust now and 20% rules, but we're about to flip that because again, like there's people, early days up to even last year, I knew everybody in the company. Like right now, there are people who come and go and just never met them, don't know who they are, haven't talked to them. And so that changes the dynamics quite a bit. And so I have to have trust in the people managing those people, first of all, but then we all need process. We all need accountability as well.
And how much like bringing in managers, like is efficiency always kind of a fear that by like there is trust is great because in a way it does build efficiency, but also it could do the opposite if the trust is poorly managed. Like would bringing in a lot of managers, would that make more efficiency?
Not necessarily, right? I've been in organizations where you have 100 managers and one door, and those are very inefficient organizations, right? Everybody's there is playing like status game versus getting work done, and there are companies that are well run. Like for me, I don't think of it as like I'm not trying to create 6 levels of management. It's whatever gets the job done. It's enough to. Like again, for example, the dev teams, and that's probably we have about 30-35 developers. Even if I want to manage them, I cannot manage them alone. I just have other responsibilities, and therefore you have to kind of delegate to other people. And the thing that would keep them accountable, first of all, is culture, right? I think you build the right culture if you bring people that you like to work with, people who have certain traits about them. Then implicitly, by definition, those people who are cool bring other cool people. Those people who are smart are going to bring other smart people. But if you bring a bad apples brings bad apples, and now you ruin the culture. And I've seen it play in companies over and over. I've seen a bad apple ruin an entire company. And so I'm very mindful of that. So culture is kind of that glue that holds everybody together first. But then we're at a place where now, cannot all operate verbally because people, like, especially we brought recently 6 new people in like a week. It's a lot of people to onboard, and those are all new people that you have to tell them, yes, they're capable and developed and equipped and everything, but they don't know the company. They don't know our processes. Now we're in a peculiar spot because there's process already, but all of this process is verbal and implicit and in people's heads. So the people who have been with me the longest, right? And I have people who have been with us 8 years almost. They're automatic, right? They know what to do. They know the right things to do. They know how to act, all of that. But then you bring the new people, and now they're like, okay, what now? What do I do? So that's where kind of management comes in. That's where also we have to document, systematize, operationalize a lot of things that we are, used to wing it on.
Got it. All right. No, that makes sense. And if you wanted to hire people, especially with an international team, like what is the process of doing that?
Great question. I think it depends on where, the location. Because the way we hire, more or less, is network. Like the best way to hire, in my opinion, is a network, because you hire a good person, smart person, then you sit him down and say, give me the name of all your buddies. Great. And then you go to them and you get the name of their buddies, and that kind of gives you a network of kind of pre-vetted people. Probably my shortcut. I don't know how I would approach, like if I am to approach it in a completely new country, and actually we've done it, right? So recently we hired like 2 or 3 people in Brazil. Never hired in Brazil. I don't know the culture fully. And that also brings unique challenges, right? Like, I'm fortunate because I worked with, I would say pretty much with every culture on earth at this point. Like I've worked with people in China. Yes. I've worked with people in Japan, Russia, Ukraine, Poland, India, Turkey, and now and South America, almost all of it. So there's also cultural differences that make people different.
Yeah. And are there some cultures you prefer to work with?
Yes, but
maybe not for the podcast.
We're not comment on that in the podcast.
And so then you have this big international team.
I'll give you a clue. I'll give you some clues, okay, and see if you can figure that out. So I'm trying to think if there's an English term for what the people that I like to work with. So there's kind of 2 styles of people. There are people who are kind of more laid back. I'm not that, right? I'm more of let's get shit done. Yeah. And so the kind of people that I like are like that, are like the getting shit done kind of people. And there are cultures and places where just people are laid back. There's nothing you can do to change that. Yes. And so those are places that, again, there might be great people. And we do have quite a few people who are kind of like that, laid back. And I think it also depends highly on the role, right? If you're in software delivery, I need a fire under your ass, man.
Yeah.
Otherwise, nothing gets done.
That makes sense. And then with regard to those people, like how do you make sure, like, what's your style of management when it comes to getting things done? You just want to, like, how do you issue commands is almost what I'm looking for.
I don't think my style, and you tell me, because again, you tell me, but I don't think my style is kind of the command style.
No.
It's, I think for the most part, I like to hire smart people and then tell them the problem. And then have them figure it out.
And, it's also kind of an interesting conversation, but like Steve Jobs, for example, was a very aggressive, like, CEO. Do you think that that's an approach? Like, do you ever get inspired by Steve Jobs' management style at all?
Not by his management style, but by pretty much kind of how he thought about product is pretty much the thing that I love and admire the most about Jobs. And I think I totally understand. I mean, I can totally understand why his style is that. And also the NVIDIA guy as well. The NVIDIA CEO is also famous for being like pretty intense.
But it's almost like when you get that large, you kind of have to be that intense. Your time is worth so much that you just can't tolerate the bullshit.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to people, right? It's hiring. I think Huang says he never gives up on people. Like once he hires them, he never gives up on them. He'd rather torture them into greatness. I like that.
Yes.
I like that.
Torturing into greatness.
Yeah. But I'm also, and I think that's probably, some of that is probably my approach. But one of my mistakes is that sometimes it's like I see the potential in people that they don't see the potential in themselves. And that's been very, very tricky for me.
And I think everyone's had a moment like that.
It's like I know you're good, man. Just get it done. And some people won't budge. Some people will just be stuck in their old ways. And that's when you have to say, you know what? I give up on you. Just go do your thing. We're not a good fit.
Which is a hard conversation to have.
It is a hard conversation, but I'd rather have it early.
So then maybe kind of, I don't know if you want to give up your secret sauce, but like, what is it like to manage BitLab, your company? Like, how does it work? Like, how do you track all these guys around the world? I know it's a lot of Zoom meetings.
It's all our digital headquarters, Slack. So all of it is, if you look at I think I'm willing to bet you have a lot of channels in your Slack.
You probably have insane channels.
And insane pings all the time, but there's a method to the madness. So every team, every project, every ongoing project has one or more channels related to it, right? There is the core engineering channel, there's QA channel. So it's all organized through, pretty much I think Slack is our digital headquarters. So everybody's organized through that. Daily stand-ups, this is where all the team across the world will meet and kind of talk through, okay, hey, what have you done? And again, I think the best process that makes the entire company tick is actually very simple. It's the stand-up. It's what have you done yesterday or today, since you worked? What are you going to do next? And then do you have any blockers? So tell us what you did today. Tell me what you're going to do tomorrow. And is there any impediments that I can remove for you? Is pretty much the secret sauce.
And that daily stand-up's like the foundation of all the work.
Yes. And this is where all the coordination around, again, if I have a guy in one time zone talking to another guy in time zone, eventually, of course, there's a lot of async meetings. There's a lot of those, team members meeting on their own. But eventually, you need a checkpoint where everybody from the development to QA to the design, for all of them to come together and discuss the issues. Well, first of all, to kind of talk about progress and where are we, so everybody knows what's happening. And then a lot of meetings to kind of just coordinate and.
And how do you stay organized with all of this?
It's a challenge, man. You know this. It's work in progress, I would say. But
and what's your other than like whatever the obvious ones?
Still tools. I think the way we stay organized, and I think the thing that served us, any successful business, you need what I call people, process, and then tools. And so I think I was lucky to have set up, because I'm a software guy and I'm always playing with software, I was lucky to kind of set up the right software, that the software brought the process and all I had to do is just bring the people. And then.
But you have like a unique workflow where you record your meetings and then it actually listens to your recording, and then based off that, it actually delegates.
So this is a recent thing. We've had it only when we brought linear. So when I get off my, when we have Fathom on the call, when the call ends, my Fathom actually goes to Drive, and I have a record of the entire transcript and the summary. And then all the action items will go to linear, and then get delegated to the right people and teams. Keep in mind, there's not all teams are still running with this. There's 2 or 3 teams that run with this process. So some of the other teams are on Jira. And by the way, that's kind of the other kind of critical tool for us, Jira.
How does Jira work?
Very, Trello, Monday, all of these. It's in essence, it's a workflow tool where, hey, to do, in progress, done. Well, that's the simple version. Our version is much more complex than that. Because even when a developer finishes the work goes to one, what we call environment, and then from one environment, once it's tested, then it goes to the next, and we kind of promote it through the value chain until it gets to production.
Got it. Kind of like Slack has a very similar thing, more a basic version of it.
Yeah, there's like the Slack boards, which we've tried to use, but I think they were too
simple,
too basic for our use cases. Yeah.
Got it. And then with BitLab, you have the stand-up. Is there anything else that you want to comment on about how the company's run that makes you unique?
I think the other thing that makes us unique, and that's why like a lot of times kind of, people call us a dev shop or a software development agency, but I think we're much more than that. What I think one of the secret sauces we have is obsession with a product. We don't think of it like, I think, and maybe it's because I worked with a lot of software development agencies in the past. Just being a CTO who goes from like project to project, I got to see a lot of teams. I got to work with a lot of teams. The thing that makes us unique is first of all, I think software development agencies expect you to give them a spec, right? If you give them the right spec, they can turn on really good software, or per spec. What makes us unique is that you cannot spec out something you haven't brought to the world. You cannot spec out new ideas. They're new ideas. I mean, you can spec them to a certain extent. A product is a live thing. It's always maturing. It's always evolving. And that evolution, the faster you're able to do it, the better your product becomes. And so what makes us unique is that our team is able to, through interaction with the customers. First of all, I think we're not a development agency. We're probably the closest thing I would call us is like a venture studio, minus the funding part, because we understand business, we understand market. We help a lot of companies that we build the tech for, we take to market. And so I think what makes us unique is an understanding of the space we're in, the domain or the vertical of healthcare. That's one. Then in parallel, a solid understanding of product. And product is not the technology. Product is much more than technology. Product is how you package it, what it looks like, the experience of buying the thing or acquiring the thing, the experience of activating the thing, the experience of using it, and then keeping using it, right? Examples of that, there's a couple of companies that have been with us for about 2 years now, where their first version of the product was no customers, no investors. And then they came and they said, oh, okay, we think we know how to make this successful. And we went from nobody would invest in the company, 0 customers, rebuilt it in 3 months, relaunched it to the market. Today, that platform, Big Pharma runs it, one of the biggest companies in the world, ridiculous market cap, runs that software. We have more than 70,000 users on that platform. And I'm being vague on purpose, just again, lots of NDAs and stuff.
Of course.
But this is a platform that 2 years ago had nothing going on for it. Today, it's like 7-figure deals with pharma, bringing patients and people through that.
And you talked about what a software development studio is, like whatever, you pay, develop me software, and thanks for the software. What makes BitLab different than a traditional software development studio?
That you can come to us with one sentence, and we know how to take a sentence to a product. And that's in my opinion, that's a very rare skill set to have. And I believe that's why a lot of customers come to us.
And what does that mean? Like if you were to flesh out that idea, like what does it mean to take a sentence, like flesh out everything?
Yeah. So
like what is that everything?
Yeah, everything. Okay, so I want to take an example, but not that example. Let me think.
No, think of a vague example.
So, okay, I'm trying to give you an example that I don't have to be vague, but I think for lots of them I have to. So one of the founders we worked with, a customer came to us and he said, hey, I want to build this platform that will help acquire patients. And what is unique is I think, at least for me, I've spent a lot of time across industries, across vertical, that I can walk into a place and my mind basically will dissect every aspect of it as a business. So if I walk into a store, if I walk to a new concept restaurant, my mind is automatically dissecting, okay, what are they doing for payroll? Oh, what point of sale system? Like this is not something that a lot of people do in the world. I think Hormozy is one of those guys as well, who's his mind works like that. And so being able to take a, vague idea, ask a bunch of questions, help the founder flush out their skill, their strengths, their weaknesses, and then help them position that idea. Like what is difficult about, there's a concept that I call the idea maze, okay? And this is, I stole it from Balaji Srinivas. Balaji Srinivas is probably one of the smartest people I know in the world. Not a lot of people know him. He used to be the CTO of Coinbase.
Ah, okay.
Massive historian, brilliant human being. And he had a paper that he called the idea maze. And the idea is that take a simple problem statement of I want to put video online. One sentence, video online. Video online is YouTube. But But video online is also Netflix, right? Video online is also Napster. I don't know if you remember Napster. Torrents.
Before my time,
right?
a little bit.
Torrents is also video online. TikTok is video online.
Yeah.
All of them are video online. But what makes each one of them unique is, YouTube, longer form and free. Netflix, long form, paid. TikTok, short form. And so literally, you take the same problem statement of video online and you can slice it and dice it and serve it to different markets in different ways and have all of those people use all of these products. And so helping founders navigate that idea maze. And this requires a very unique skill set and combination of skill sets because one is going back to the customer. YouTube customers are not the same Netflix customers. And that's what makes each one of these ideas viable in its own or not. In fact, there's a lot of video companies that also died navigating the idea maze. And every new startup, I think a lot of people assume that a startup is just a small version of a large company. But in essence, every startup is first of all an experiment. It's a hypothesis that there is thesis behind the startup. And what I encourage founders to do is quickly come up with one or more theses. And if you apply the scientific method to that, what you're trying to do is say, I want to do video online. Okay, great, wonderful. I mean, the world could use another video online. What's your thesis? Okay, I want to serve it to teenagers. Okay, wonderful. How can we design experiments to tell me if the teenagers need that thing? So what can I do to either ideally, I want to disprove. I want to prove that your thesis is invalid because if your thesis is invalid, you quickly kill that direction and you go navigate another direction. And a startup is basically an experiment that you take through the idea maze, and ideally, before you run out of money, you find the way out. With this, and then kind of you blow up and you become a big thing. So if you
become a business.
Yes, you become a viable business because a startup is not a business and it's not a viable business. And to navigate the idea maze, you navigate it across dimensions, very different dimensions. I'll give you an example. And I think what makes us unique is that what makes Shukri unique, first of all, and I think that this kind of extends into it, is that I'm able to hold all of these models in my head and manipulate them and help the founder manipulate them to arrive at where they need to go. So changing who you serve with a product will change a lot about the product itself. For example, the interface you will design for a mobile app. Let's forget AI aside, and even AI is the same. But if you design a mobile app, the mobile app experience you'll design for a 20-year-old is completely different than the mobile app experience that you'll design for a 50-year-old, right? In fact, we've actually, this was a fun story. So one of the companies we helped initially came to us and they said, hey, we're building something for truck drivers. This is, long time. And we said, great, wonderful. What do you know about truck drivers? And they said, we don't know much. However, we want the app to be slick. And then at that time, Snapchat was hot. They said, we want like this Snapchat live interface, and we want it to be all fancy and beautiful. And we're like, okay. Then we go do our own research. And we discovered that the average age of a truck driver is 55. Wait. So are you trying to build a Snapchat experience and give it to 55-year-old? So from the original design, they came to us with and like, here is the thing we want to do. And this is like massive. So seeing that initial, look beautiful. But you want to see what we did. Our app, dumb, simple. 2 buttons. That's all, right? Because all the truck driver had to do, I arrived. Click, I arrived. Oh, you're in the next, pick where you need to pick up stuff. Oh, I'm here. That's all it takes, right? And we saw that as soon as we changed it, truck drivers started to comply and actually use the thing because they know how to use the thing. Changing the customer or the user changed the UI, but it also changed a lot of things that happen inside the product, the rules that get applied, the mechanics of the product, changing, and then sometimes the technology might enforce a limitation on you. And then how do you take the technology limitation and then translate it to experience or experience? And if I want to kind of draw it as it's the interaction between market, customer, user, product, technology, experience, design, unit economics, financial, operations. And so all of these are dimensions of running
and
business.
Together that is BitLab.
And to gather that and to be able, because all of these don't exist in vacuum. You change one variable. And I'm going to go scientific for a second, but what makes startups extremely hard to do is that they're always a multi-variable problem, right? And I don't know if you've ever heard me describe the formula for it. NTPMA, niche, because everything, if you're wrong about who the customer is, then you're probably wrong about who the user is, then everything else is wrong. So if you're wrong about that initial thesis, anything and everything you build after that is just fundamentally garbage. So niche. Second is transformation. What's transformation? It's the problem they're trying to solve, right? People are not buying products. They're buying a solution to their problem. So if you can define who the user or who's the customer as the niche, if you define the transformation that they're going to get, guess what? Now you can put a price tag on it, right? So if I know who the customer is, I know how big the problem is, I know how much I can charge them for it. And it's very easy to put dollars on it. So NTPM mechanism. This is when the product, and this is the mistake a lot of founders go. They jump to the M without the NTP. So you build the product divorced from reality. You build the product divorced from users. You build a pie in the sky for an imaginary customer that you've never seen, never talked to, don't understand, don't know the problem. And then finally, access channel. Where do you find these people? How do you market to them? And you can see now that NTPMA goes in order. First is the niche, then the transformation, then the product, then the mechanics or the product, and then finally, where do I find these people? And if I have this formula right, I'm going to be right. And the other secret is that this formula itself isn't static, because sometimes you change a tiny variable in this formula and you have a money printing formula. And sometimes you're just slugging it and it sucks.
Yeah, well, that's the startup world.
That's the startup world.
Well, Shukri, thank you so much.
Of course.
And till next time.